Southwest of Morgan Hill on Watsonville Road near Highway 152 is Chitactac-Adams County Park. This plaque describes the two things that are most important here. This is a house that still exists, somewhat updated, the Adams House. The school was built by the Adams, money from the Adams, and burned down a couple of times, the last time in 1956, after which it was not rebuilt. I believe this is probably the last class at that school. In the late 1800s, Morgan Hill looked like this. Here we have a reproduction of one of the Indian shelters and modern park benches. Mortars used for grinding grain on a large stone that's nearby. The house that was built in Indian fashion contains a petroglyph dug up from the creek. Reproductions of how they might have looked when new. Shows the region of great diversity of the various Indian tribes that were in this area in the old days. Communities are about as far apart as they are now, probably. And the routes along the creek that went between the villages. Some village life here. Description of what makes a village. It's a very good educational facility. It has a lot of descriptions of what went on. Here's some Indians recreating how things were done. And here's some artist representations of how Indian life was and what they looked like in those days that the Spanish came through and probably made drawings. The stairs lead down to where the Indian village was actually located below the road. Here we have some of the food preparation again. Indian mortar. Here we have 4 more mortars that were used for grinding the grain, acorns mainly. Representation of how the houses were built. Some of the rock art. Here's an overlook looking down at one of the rocks with a petroglyph, which you can see right here in the lower part of this picture. Off another overlook, you can look down even further from the road to where the creek is. And the water moves fairly rapidly through this particular region of the creek. Up at our level, there's a rock outcropping that is quite prominent. We move around and get to a little closer overlook. You can see the rock in greater detail and the sort of pond that is formed by the creek below. Some of the fish and other wildlife that is in that area. Here we have the other side of the rock, reminiscent of a facility north of this location, Castle Rock, up near Saratoga. And lastly, we have the ranchos and growth of the Spanish, Chitactac-Adams County Park on Watsonville Road.